Nick, we're in London, England, and this is take 5.
Yes, they took us by the Americans, whoever wanted to go in deeper with them, to stay on their side. I didn't want to go back to Poland. I've never been since, anyway. I knew, what shall I go back for? I wasn't in love with the Poles that much, except Krański, the gentleman. So, anyway, so they put us again on open wagon tracks, or railways. The Americans, because I suppose they didn't have anything better. And started raining. I remember some American boys came and talked to us in the uniforms, you know, from New York. I remember one was, they brought whatever they could, some sheets of wood or something, or blockboards or whatever, so we can cover ourselves a little bit. Anyway, and so they took us then to a place called, I remember now, Eisenach, I'm quite sure. And there was Eisenach, a town, Eisenach. And there was like built Kasernen, they call it in German, barracks, but proper buildings. But we still slept on the floor, but there was straw. Anyway, I don't know what they did with the beds, I don't know, but there was army, German army barracks, big buildings, nice residence, but still slept on the floor anyway. And then from there, although that was, I'm quite sure that was then under the Russians again. There was, and so they tried to take us somewhere else. I believe I heard Frankfurt. Anyway, I got off with a couple of other boys from the train in Ulm, a town called Ulm. And then we met our friend. There I met already some Jewish fellows, which I got to know, and 2 brothers and other couple of people. They were already traveling around because we didn't pay money on the trains in those days. I mean, I used to say to him, Hitler will pay you. Oh yeah, I'm not scared of them or anything like that. The conductor comes for money or ticket. So they're already traveling around. We got to know them in Ulm, and we slept in a big school. It was a school with they had beds there, and but there were German families, which even with children, because a big hall, like big rooms in a school, but there were beds, and we were given something to eat there, and there were refugees. There were that ran away from the east, sort of. What do they call it? In German, called Flüchtlinge, and in English, what is forgotten the name? What would they call them in English? I mean,
Displaced persons?
Well, yes, there were refugees and which they were not settled, but they were sleeping there as well. And so at that time we met this friends, which I'm still friendly with. And they say, what are you doing here? I go, what are you sitting here for? You know, we were a few boys, a few fellas. And they said, well, come with us. We're going to Constance. We're living there. There was already a Jewish committee there when we arrived. And a Polish committee there. They're 2 separate things. Anyway, no, they didn't. They're not together. Anyway,
When was this?
in 45.
Which month? Do you remember? June? May, June?
Yes, I think it could have been. Yes, I reckon so, because it was still nice and warm. I only go by the weather. And I mean, I don't remember the months, but it was sunny and it was warm. And so we arrived there, and we stayed there for a while. And then I went traveling with somebody else as well. Then I found out that my brother is alive from somebody, and that was people the sort of very distant relatives, young girls. There were 3 sisters at the time. Now there's only 2 left anyway. One is in Australia and the other one in Israel. The one in Israel told me that your brother is so and so, which is this a place called Neustadt, past Hamburg or something. It's a long way. And I was there when I met him that was a displaced person camp after the war. And they told me that, so I went on the train and traveled day and night because the connections was not like this today nowadays. And full of every space, and even people hanging outside because there's no room in them. Anyway, I got there and that's why I met him actually, he was there. But his story you will probably hear if you're going to interview how he survived. Because they sank 3 boats, or 2 boats, 3 boats, which I could see 2 bottoms when I got there to this Neustadt, sticking out from the sea. They sunk with the people. And there were displaced person people, Häftlinge, what they call in German Häftlinge, which is evacuation. And the British happened to bomb it. Because the story I know is that they started machine gunning from the boat up to the planes, the SS, the guards. And so they called in the bombers and it was sunk. And he swam out to the shore on a lump of wood, apparently. Anyway, you hear this from him, I suppose.
And he was the only one of your family who survived
Yeah.
from Auschwitz?
Yeah.
You said there was an uncle earlier that you met?
Yes, he no doubt. That's when I pinched those, when I taken these onions and carrots, whatever, and whatever they had, something to eat. So I meant some for him too, because he was alive still at the time. And when I was sent out from Buchenwald, I never saw him again. No doubt he must have died because he was very thin. Well, here's the photograph there. He's very thin, he was. And, that's all I could help him. I couldn't help him much. What could I have done? He said, if you can get out of here. I did my best to get out, although... I shall get some things sometime.
Do you need to stop or you?
No.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
What happened with your brother? You met up with Sam in Neustadt, and
Yes.
then what happened?
Then he came back with me, because I was already, I was living in Konstanz in the beginning for some time, but then I went to Geilingen, which that was a Jewish old age home, but a very, very modern, beautiful big building. Anyway, it was empty. There was no Jewish people there anymore. There was still a little synagogue there, which nobody attended, of course. Yes, in what I call in German Friedhof, means a burial ground. In that village, there were lots of Jewish people there. Burial ground is still there today, because I remember we did go there. You know, all the people that lived in that place was called Friedrichshain. Beautiful building, nice. And but although it was a beautiful building, but there was central heating, we couldn't use it because there was no coal to use. So whatever we could, we were permitted to go to the forest, which is not very far. It's all proper forest there, and chop wood. Oh yes. Well, they mark the trees which are allowed to chop to be done, because for some reason, you know, they know what the foresters know their trade. But we weren't allowed to just chop any tree. I mean, the ones they are marked. And it wasn't easy, because 2 people had to do the sawing with this, I don't know if you ever seen those hand saws, that 2 handles, one on each side, and 2 people, yeah, and that's what we had to do to get some warmth. There was no other choice. Anyway, so when I went to Neustadt, he came back with me. We stayed in Geilingen, and I don't remember for how long exactly, but at the end of 46 we came here. So that, but from there, well, he knew somebody that oh, in Bergen-Belsen. Well, that was a neighbor, and we knew her at home as well. And in fact, I got photos, but it's where I went now. I didn't prepare it. But anyway, and she had some connection with people in Ireland because her husband had sisters or something in Ireland, but the husband was not alive, but she had addresses. And so they found out my aunt here from Ireland. They wrote to somebody in the East End, relations of there, and there she knew, that relative knew my aunt and uncle, which photos are there, I reckon. And so that's how we got in touch with them, and that's how we got papers to come here.
And that was your father's sister, or
yes,
your father's sister?
Oh, yeah. Yes, my father's sister. So we came here and started suffering all over again, because nobody, I mean, we didn't get much help. It was very, very difficult.
In what way was it
Practically no
difficult?
trade. I mean, what I knew, I didn't go to start. Afterwards, my cousin's husband tried to introduce me to a wood factory, but when I walked in there, I felt sick. It wasn't the same factory that I used to see it at home. That was a building. It was huge and clean, and I mean, all that was filthy, smelly. So I got myself a job because I had a good idea about tailoring. Well, a good idea. I mean, it wasn't strange to me, so I did find it not too difficult to learn, because my father did it all around, and over there wasn't one does the sleeve and the other one does the buttonholes or something. Everything is done in the place. So I wasn't strange with it. So I started learning tailoring. And well, the money wasn't too good in the beginning, of course. If somebody got a rise, usually it was overtaken by the inflation or something. That's the usual thing, isn't it? So it was not easy.
Where did you live in England?
Mostly, I lived in Stamford Hill. I lived with a Jewish family, me and my brother there, near Stoke Newington there, and opposite, not far from Cazenove Road, opposite the main street actually. But then we found ourselves a room higher up in Stamford Hill, not too long, but then we moved to Amos Park, which it was a single room. The landlord and the landlady, they were absolute nice people, Christian people. I got on with them very well. We did anyway. And eventually they installed a sink and water, and it was in those days, and it was single rooms, and they lived somewhere else, not far away. He was the caretaker of a big building in Stamford Hill. I don't remember the Stamford Lodge or something, I'm not sure. Anyway, so they lived there, but we lived very, very free with them. I mean, they didn't bother us, or in fact, we liked them, they liked us.
Were your aunt and uncle nearby?
Oh no, they lived in the East End. In the East End.
You didn't have much to do with them?
In the beginning, yes, we came there, but then we moved to Stamford Hill, opposite Cazenove Road, in the main road there. But didn't stay too long with the family there too, because we found ourselves another room, a better room. And then in Amos Park, that was really already a lot of freedom, and nice room, and very free. And we got on with the landlord and landlady very well. Nice people. Yeah. They were originally, as far as I know, they were, I believe, born here, but they emigrated to Canada. From Canada, beginning of the war, or just in the beginning, or just before, they came to London. And so they stayed here, and he was the caretaker of this big block of flats. Yeah, and we got on well then.
And what else has happened in your life in England since that time?
Well, for example, what do you mean?
Well, you stayed with your brother in these different places. How did you...
We lived there quite a long time in Amos Park. That's the longest time. And then he went to Rhodesia and came back. Then he went to Israel in the army, in 48. And I was still living there in Amos Park. And so on. And we lived in Amos Park until we came here.
To this house?
Yeah.
And when was that?
Oh, I don't think, I don't know for sure, but could have been 58, I think, or 59 or 58, I think so. And so since then we are here, we live here.
How have you spent your time? You were working as a tailor.
I was.
What else?
I was learning in the beginning, of course. And I had. Oh, yes, I was. I was very happy to learn and very happy to do it. And then when I advanced a bit more and learned, and when we moved in here, I started working on. Even in Stamford Hill already, I started working on my own producing. Yeah, and here, of course. And I started producing on myself, for people, for customers.
And they came to your home for
Yes, they
the
came
business.
here, I went to them, and it just depended on time and situation, place, whatever.
And what hobbies and pastimes did you have? What did you do in your spare time?
In my spare time, well, I did. We went to Jewish clubs, and there were plenty at that time. There were a shortage of Jewish clubs, not like today. I also played football. Not professionally, but in a team with fellas. And we used to go to Jewish dances, and yes, there was loads of that. I had the theater. We went to theater as well. There used to be a theater in the East End. I forgot the name now of it, but there was. And there were hostels, the fellas that came over here on the Jewish they were like from Poland or Hungary or from ever young people which they were brought over in groups. They came here, I don't know. This particular lot must have been, I don't know, 400 or 350 fellas. But also some girls, not many. But they were living in different hostels. Not just one hostel. There was one in Finchley Road, there was one in Belsize Park, there was one in Stamford Hill, there was one in Clapton. So we were busy visiting and getting to know each other with those people. And we still are today. Because it's so-called the 45-8 Society. And those are the fellas. I mean, it's like a big family. Anyway, and now I also am a member of the, not only the 45-8 Society, but also of Hendon Center, which is under organization of care. And so we are busy going there too. And In fact, last Sunday we had a wonderful, great meeting, and there was of course, there was a lady from Hungary, and she's a professional singer, and I forgot the name, but she's opera singer actually, and she sang some wonderful songs, and her husband played the violin, and we had tea, and we had biscuits there, cakes, and it was nice. And you see, there are three or four groups, and every group got it a different week. But although every group has a different weekend, or rather Sunday night, Sunday afternoon, 3 o'clock it starts. And so we are allowed to go to them, but they're also allowed to come to our group. Of course, then we're not enemies. And it's nice. The 45-8 Society, now there will be a forum thing coming up shortly, but also the 45-8 Society makes the same thing. And so, every year we got a terrific dinner and meeting, which fellas come even from America, or some even from Argentina, now and again, some people. They come even from Israel or wherever. Not a lot, but some people do come. We have a dinner, 45-8 Society, every year, May, Liberation Month. And last year we had this terrific meeting in Israel, which people came from all over, and also a dinner, big dinner there, in a big hotel. I forgot the name now. Anyway, in Tel Aviv, near the sea, there's a big hotel. Maraya, I think.
Could be.
Yeah, yes, it is. Well, because we stayed there. They're all from the 45-8 Society went there. And other people came from all surrounding areas, or from Israel and from abroad. And we had this dinner there in Maraya Plaza. Yeah, I think so, yeah. Yes, nice place. Yes, Maraya Plaza, I believe it is, yes.
Where did you meet your wife?
Oh, my wife I met here. I don't mean this room. I mean in a Jewish dance place. Where is it now? Where the Maccabi is. It's still there, the Maccabi, I think, in not Belzes Park. It's West End Lane, off West End Lane. Maccabi, that same street. There was a Jewish club there. It's not there now, I don't think so. It belonged to a Jewish man as well. We used to know him very well. Yeah. That's where I met my wife, my best wife.
I just want to go back a bit to just check one or two things. During your time in the camps, did you develop relationships with people? Did you make friends that you went from one camp to the next with?
Oh yes, I mean I met people which we were neighbors, not only and neighbors in the same buildings, I mean, where we lived, and also made friends with others, of course. I mean, the group I was with, there were mostly some from Austria, mostly from France, and some from Poland. But it was a group which we worked together, like we were called commando. We worked together, and we had this room which we also slept in the same room. The whole group, I don't know, must have been 40 odd maybe, or something like that, fellas. And from France, some of them are in Paris, which I've met, which I didn't know them then, of course. And we met in Israel, because they had also came for that purpose, but they had the dinner separately, in a different day, not with us together. And so we got talking, and here they are from Blechame people, but they came from Paris, from France, to Blechame, anyway. But they came to Israel, as it happens, because last year was the 50th anniversary. That's how So, anyway, yes, we got talking, and here they gave me the address, and I should come every Christmas time. Before Christmas, they got the big dinner, like we got in May. The 45-8 Society. They apparently they make it before Christmas or something like that. And I didn't go this year or this Christmas, but I've got the address whenever invited to go there. Got talking. I didn't know them then. Even the dentist from Blecham I've seen was a dentist. I mean, there was a dentist, but did he do anything? Who knows? I don't think so. I didn't do nothing. I mean, didn't do my teeth anyway. Whether he did anybody else's, I'm not so sure. But he married a girl that there were a few women in Blecham, as I said, some working in the kitchen, some working in the clothing, like they had washing machines or whatever, because the shirts were changed here and there, and so that girl, I remember her because unfortunately. But she was a young girl, and that dentist married her after the war. They met again because they were separated immediately, the women from us, because they had a different camp anyway, in the camp, but behind wire and so on. But we weren't allowed to go in there, or they're not allowed to come out, speak to us even. But a man like that, a dentist, I remember him. I mean, they had ways and means of getting places. I mean, when we were out of work, in works or whatever, I mean, they were more free, of course. And he married that girl after the war, yes. I asked about her, but Londner, her name is, I remember, because I knew the parents, I knew the two brothers. They were not far from us living, actually. Manja Londner, I remember. Yeah, she was a pretty girl. And he married her after that. How they met, I don't know.
When you think back of all your experience, what do you think are the reasons that you survived?
Sheer luck.
Anything else?
Everybody wanted to survive, but that's just sheer luck meant to live.
Just
It wasn't a matter
circumstances.
of cleverness. It wasn't a matter of strength neither, because stronger people than I was, whatever, went under very quickly.
You came from a very orthodox Jewish family. What has happened to your Jewish identity over the years? You've mentioned the 45 Society.
Yes.
Do you belong to a synagogue? Are you active in that way?
I go to synagogue, but I don't belong. I'm not a member, as it happens. I'm sorry I am not, but I should have been that time. There you are. But I'm enjoying thinking very much about it, actually.
You don't feel religious in the same way as your father did, for example?
No. When a person, some people, maybe not so many, but some, very few I should imagine. But I got a friend, and well, he's alive in Paris. We used to be in Constance together, and in Geilingen we used to live there in this building. We're still friends. We send cards, comes the Jewish holidays. He comes from a religious home, which we did observe there, of course. But he become now more religious than he was. You see, some people went away. Some people become even stronger, which I can think of a fellow here in London. Very, very orthodox. Very. He probably was orthodox at home, no doubt. But some did, some didn't. But it doesn't mean to say that I'm against it. Oh, no. Not at all. When somebody sometimes becomes more or sometimes becomes less. But it doesn't mean to say against it. Not at all.
We've come more or less up to date with married and living in this house. Is there, and the 45 AIDS Society, Before we finish, is there anything else that you would like to add?
Regarding
Anything we've missed, anything you want to say for future generations, anything at all?
I still don't today even look at the things as it was justice. I don't want to express myself badly, but we were the unlucky ones, and we were not treated justly at all from the world. Neither do I forgive it. The world, not only the Germans, the world. Because that man came to London, he was not allowed to see Mr. Churchill. He might have done something, because he was a courageous man, according to what I know, and a person to do things, for what I know. It just shows you were not allowed. And Eden's supposed to have given as far as I know, the message to Mr. Churchill, but as we know so far, he didn't. But apparently he went to America and he saw the President Roosevelt. But for what I know, he was told that justice will prevail. But it prevailed justice for the Germans, for the Nazis, but not for us. Nobody lifted a finger for us. Should they have done, things would have been different. Just words, speaking. Oh yes.